The eviction notice trembled in Candace Johnson's hands as she read it for the 5th time that morning. 3 days. She had 3 days to come up with $2,000 or she and her 8-year-old daughter Lily would be homeless. The fluorescent lights in the apartment office buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the crumpled paper that sealed their fate. "Mama, my chest hurts again," Lily whispered from the plastic chair beside her, her small hand pressed against her ribs where the asthma had been getting worse. The inhaler in Candace's purse was nearly empty, and the prescription refill would cost another $100 they didn't have. Candace forced a smile and smoothed Lily's dark curls. "It's okay, baby. Mama's going to fix everything." But her heart was racing as fast as her mind, searching for solutions that seemed impossible to find. Her job at the grocery store barely covered groceries and utilities. Every penny went toward keeping them afloat, and still they were drowning. The apartment manager, a thin woman with tired eyes, leaned forward across her desk. "I'm sorry, Miss Johnson. I really am. But the building owner is cracking down. If you can't pay by Friday, I have to start the formal eviction process." "Please," Candace said, hating how desperate she sounded. "Just one more week. My daughter has asthma and needs her medication. I'm looking for a second job, I just need a little more time." The woman's expression softened, but she shook her head. "My hands are tied. I wish there was something I could do." Walking home with Lily's small hand in hers, Candace felt the weight of failure crushing down on her shoulders. She had always been strong, had always found a way to make things work since Lily's father disappeared when she was 2. But this time felt different. This time she was truly out of options. "Mama, are we going to be okay?" Lily asked, her voice small and worried beyond her years. "Of course we are, sweetheart. Mama always takes care of you, right?" But that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Candace sat at their tiny kitchen table with her laptop, desperately scrolling through job listings. Most required experience she didn't have or offered wages that wouldn't even cover their rent. Her savings account showed $37.63. Her checking account wasn't much better. Then she saw it. A posting that made her heart skip a beat. Live-in nanny position, immediate start, $5,000 per month plus room and board. Seeking experienced caregiver for twin boys, age 8. Previous nannies have found the position challenging. Must be patient, dedicated, and willing to commit long-term. References required. Contact Pierce Holdings immediately. $5,000 a month. That was more money than she'd ever dreamed of making. It would solve everything: Lily's medical bills, their housing situation, their entire future. But the word challenging stood out like a warning sign, and she wondered what kind of children had driven away so many previous caregivers. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "Any luck with jobs? I can try to send $50, but that's all I can spare." $50 wouldn't even buy groceries for the week, much less save their home. Candace stared at the job posting again, her cursor hovering over the contact information. She had no experience as a nanny beyond raising Lily, but she was desperate enough to try anything. With shaking fingers, she composed an email. "Dear Sir or Madam, I am writing to apply for the nanny position you advertised. While I may not have formal childcare experience, I am a devoted single mother who understands the challenges of raising children. I am patient, reliable, and willing to learn. I can start immediately and would be grateful for the opportunity to discuss this position with you. My daughter and I are in urgent need of stable housing and income. I promise to give my absolute best effort if given this chance. Sincerely, Candace Johnson." She attached her resume, thin as it was, and hit send before she could lose her nerve. Then she sat back and waited, praying to whatever force might be listening that someone would give her a chance. Her phone rang 20 minutes later. "Miss Johnson? This is Patricia from Pierce Holdings. Mr. Pierce would like to meet with you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for an interview. Can you make it?" "Yes," Candace said quickly, not caring that she'd have to call in sick to work or find someone to watch Lily. "Yes, I can absolutely make it." "Excellent. I should warn you, the position is quite demanding. Mr. Pierce's twins are spirited children. The last 3 nannies lasted less than 2 weeks each." Candace's stomach clenched, but she thought of the eviction notice on her refrigerator. "I understand. I'm prepared for anything." "We'll see," Patricia said, her tone suggesting she'd heard those words before. "The address is 1247 Millionaire's Row. Don't be late." After hanging up, Candace pulled up the address on her phone and nearly dropped it. Millionaire's Row was the most exclusive street in the city, where houses sold for tens of millions of dollars. She was about to interview with someone so wealthy that $5,000 a month was nothing to them. She spent the rest of the night researching Nathan Pierce online. Tech mogul, inherited his father's software company and built it into an empire, worth an estimated $200 million. Divorced 3 years ago, gained full custody of twin sons Tyler and Trevor. The articles painted him as brilliant but demanding, a perfectionist who expected the same level of excellence from everyone around him. The photos showed a handsome man in his mid-30s with serious dark eyes and an expensive suit. In every picture he looked like someone who was used to getting his way, someone who didn't accept failure or excuses. Candace wondered what kind of father he was, and why his children had such a reputation for being difficult. As she tried to fall asleep that night, Lily coughing softly in the next room, Candace made herself a promise. Whatever those twins threw at her, whatever challenges they presented, she would not give up. She couldn't afford to. This job was their lifeline, their only hope of avoiding homelessness and getting Lily the medical care she needed. She would accept any help offered, follow any rules given, and prove that she was different from all the other nannies who had come before her. Because failure wasn't an option when your child's life depended on your success. The Pierce mansion loomed before Candace like something from a fairy tale, all white columns and sprawling gardens that probably cost more to maintain than she made in a year. Her beat-up Honda looked pathetic in the circular driveway, surrounded by luxury cars that gleamed in the morning sun. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror one last time, smoothing her dark hair and adjusting the simple navy dress she'd borrowed from her sister. A uniformed butler answered the door before she could even knock. "Miss Johnson, I presume? Mr. Pierce is waiting in his study. This way, please." The interior of the house was even more impressive than the outside: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and artwork that probably belonged in museums. Candace tried not to gawk as she followed the butler down a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. "Mr. Pierce, Miss Johnson has arrived," the butler announced, opening heavy oak doors to reveal a study that was bigger than her entire apartment. Nathan Pierce stood behind a massive desk, wearing a crisp white shirt and dark slacks that probably cost more than her rent. He was even more imposing in person than in his photos, tall and broad-shouldered with penetrating gray eyes that seemed to see right through her. When he looked up from his laptop, Candace felt her confidence wavering. "Miss Johnson, please have a seat." His voice was deep and commanding, the kind of voice that was used to being obeyed without question. Candace sat in the leather chair across from his desk, trying to project more confidence than she felt. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Pierce. I know I might not be your typical candidate, but I'm willing to work hard and learn whatever you need me to learn." He studied her for a moment that felt like an eternity. "Tell me, Miss Johnson, why do you want this job?" The honest answer was that she was desperate, but she tried to find a more professional way to say it. "I need stable employment to support my daughter and myself. I believe I can provide the patience and dedication your sons need." "My sons have driven away 15 nannies in the past 2 years, Nathan said bluntly. "They're intelligent, creative, and completely destructive. The last nanny quit after they filled her car with shaving cream. The one before that left crying after they short-circuited every electronic device in her room. They seem to view torturing their caregivers as a competitive sport." Candace's heart sank, but she kept her expression steady. Children often act out when they're hurting or feeling neglected. Maybe they just need someone who won't give up on them. Something flickered in Nathan's eyes: surprise, maybe, or approval. That's an interesting perspective. Most candidates focus on discipline and control. Before Candace could respond, a tremendous crash echoed from somewhere in the house, followed by shouting and what sounded like running water. Nathan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "That would be Tyler and Trevor. Would you like to meet them?" "Yes, sir." "Absolutely." Nathan led her through the house toward the source of the commotion. As they walked, he explained, "They're identical twins, but their personalities are quite different. Tyler is the mastermind. He plans their schemes and manipulates situations to his advantage. Trevor is the muscle. He's impulsive and aggressive, but he follows Tyler's lead." They reached what appeared to be a playroom, though it looked more like a war zone. Toys were scattered everywhere, furniture was overturned, and water was spraying from a broken fish tank in the corner. 2 identical boys with dark hair and gray eyes like their fathers stood in the middle of it all, soaking wet and grinning with mischief. "Boys," Nathan said, his voice deadly calm, "this is Miss Johnson. She's here about the nanny position." The twins looked her up and down with calculating expressions that were unsettling on 8-year-old faces. The one on the left, Tyler, based on the intelligence gleaming in his eyes, smiled sweetly. "Hi, Miss Johnson. I'm Tyler. This is my brother Trevor. We're sorry about the mess. The fish tank just exploded." Trevor snickered behind his hand, and Candace could see this was no accident. These children had weaponized chaos, turning destruction into an art form. "That's quite all right," Candace said, stepping carefully around the debris. "Accidents happen. Though I have to say your fish probably need some help. Should we get them back in water?" The twins exchanged surprised looks. Most adults would have started lecturing them immediately about the mess and the destroyed furniture. Instead, Candace knelt down and began gently collecting the gasping goldfish, placing them in a large decorative vase filled with clean water from a nearby pitcher. "There," she said, watching the fish swim gratefully in their temporary home. "They should be okay until we can get them a proper tank." Tyler stared at her with new interest. "You're not going to yell at us?" "Why would I yell? The fish needed help and now they're safe. We can clean up the rest together." Nathan watched this exchange with an expression Candace couldn't read. "Boys, go get cleaned up and changed. Miss Johnson and I need to finish our discussion." As the twins reluctantly left the room, Nathan turned to her. "That was unexpected. Most people would have been horrified by this destruction." "I've seen worse," Candace said, thinking of some of Lily's asthma attacks and the panic that brought. "Besides, they're just children. They're testing boundaries, seeing what kind of reaction they'll get." "And if I offered you this position knowing what you're getting into?" Candace's heart leaped, but she tried to stay calm. "I would accept it gratefully, Mr. Pierce. I promise to do my best with Tyler and Trevor. The salary is $5,000 a month as advertised. Room and board included. There's a suite on the 3rd floor that would be yours. I also provide full medical insurance, which would cover your daughter as well if you choose to bring her here." Medical insurance for Lily. Candace felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them back. "That's incredibly generous, Mr. Pierce. I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Nathan said grimly. "Wait until you've survived your first week. The job starts Monday. Can you manage that?" "Yes, sir." "Absolutely." She paused, then took a chance. "Mr. Pierce, would it be possible to bring my daughter with me? She's 8, the same age as the twins, and she's very well behaved. I understand if that's asking too much, but I'm all she has." Nathan considered this for a moment. "What's her name?" "Lily. She has asthma, which is part of why the medical insurance would mean so much to us." "Bring her," Nathan said decisively. "The twins could probably use the company of someone their own age. And Miss Johnson? Don't let my sons intimidate you. They're good boys underneath all the chaos, they just haven't had much stability in their lives." As Candace drove home, her hands shaking with relief and excitement, she could hardly believe her luck. $5,000 a month, free housing, medical insurance, and a chance to give Lily a better life. It seemed too good to be true. But she remembered the calculating look in Tyler's eyes and the destructive glee in Trevor's expression. This job would be the challenge of her lifetime. Still, as she thought of the eviction notice waiting at home and Lily's empty inhaler, Candace knew she would do whatever it took to succeed. She had just been offered a miracle and she wasn't going to waste it. Monday morning arrived with the chaos Candace was beginning to expect from the Pierce household. She and Lily had moved into the 3rd floor suite over the weekend, a space more luxurious than anywhere they'd ever lived, complete with 2 bedrooms, a sitting area, and a kitchenette. Lily had spent hours just staring out the huge windows at the gardens below, whispering, "Is this really ours, Mama?" Now, as Candace prepared breakfast in the main kitchen, she could hear the twins upstairs engaged in what sounded like furniture warfare. Nathan had left early for a business meeting, trusting her with his sons on her very first day. The housekeeper, Mrs. Rodriguez, shot sympathetic looks in her direction every time another crash echoed from above. "They broke the last nanny's spirit in 3 days," Mrs. Rodriguez said, arranging fresh flowers in a vase. "Sweet woman, but she spent more time crying than watching those boys." "What exactly did they do to her?" Candace asked, genuinely curious. "Oh, the usual. Glue in her shampoo bottle, plastic wrap over the toilet seat, rubber snakes in her bed." But the final straw was when they convinced her that Mr. Pierce was planning to fire her, so she quit before he got the chance. Candace nodded, filing this information away. These boys were master manipulators, but they were also hurting. No child destroyed everything around them unless they were in pain themselves. A tremendous thud from upstairs was followed by silence, which was somehow more concerning than the noise had been. "Boys," Candace called up the stairs. "Breakfast is ready." Tyler appeared at the top of the staircase, his expression innocent but his clothes suspiciously dirty. "Sorry, Miss Johnson. Trevor fell down. He might be hurt." Candace hurried upstairs, following Tyler to his brother's room where Trevor lay on the floor, clutching his ankle and moaning dramatically. A quick examination revealed no real injury, just a bruised ego and a desire for attention. "Let's get some ice on that," Candace said gently, helping Trevor to his feet. "Can you walk or should I carry you?" Trevor looked surprised by her matter-of-fact response. I can walk. But it really hurts." "I'm sure it does. Come on, let's get you downstairs and taken care of." As they made their way to the kitchen, Tyler trailing behind with a puzzled expression, Candace noticed the boys' bedroom doors standing open. Both rooms were disaster zones, clothes everywhere, broken toys scattered across the floor, and what appeared to be the remnants of several failed science experiments. "After breakfast," Candace announced, settling Trevor at the table with an ice pack, "we're going to tackle those bedrooms together." "We don't clean," Tyler said quickly. "The housekeeper does that." "Mrs. Rodriguez has enough work to do," Candace replied, serving scrambled eggs and toast. "Besides, taking care of your own space teaches responsibility." Trevor perked up slightly. "What if we don't want to?" Candace smiled and sat down with her own plate. "That's okay. But the TV and video games stay off until the rooms are clean. Your father pays me to make sure you're learning important life skills." The twins exchanged looks across the table. This was new territory, a nanny who didn't yell or threaten, but also didn't back down from her expectations. "Our dad doesn't care about clean rooms," Tyler said, testing her resolve. "Your father cares about raising responsible young men," Candace countered. "He told me so himself." Just then, Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, still shy and overwhelmed by the grandeur of their new home. She was wearing her favorite purple dress and carrying the small stuffed elephant that went everywhere with her. "Good morning, sweetheart," Candace said warmly. "Come meet Tyler and Trevor." Lily approached cautiously, her eyes wide as she took in the identical faces staring back at her. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Lily. My mama is your new nanny." Tyler studied her with the same calculating expression he'd used on every adult who'd entered his life. "How old are you?" "8. Same as you." "Do you like pranks?" Trevor asked, his injury apparently forgotten. Lily looked confused. "I don't know what those are." The twins exchanged another look, this one almost protective. Here was someone even more innocent than the adults they usually terrorized. "Pranks are like jokes," Tyler explained carefully. "But sometimes they're mean jokes." "I don't like mean jokes," Lily said simply. "They hurt people's feelings." There was something in her straightforward honesty that seemed to deflate the boys' usual mischievous energy. They finished breakfast quietly, stealing glances at this strange girl who didn't seem to understand the concept of intentional meanness. After breakfast, Candace led the expedition to clean the bedrooms. She expected resistance, complaints, maybe even a full-scale rebellion. Instead, the boys seemed almost curious about her approach. "Everything broken goes in this box," Candace explained, holding up a cardboard container. "We'll see what can be fixed and what needs to be thrown away. Clothes go in the laundry basket or back in the closet where they belong." She worked alongside them, not standing over them like a supervisor but getting down on her hands and knees to sort through the chaos. When she found a torn book, she didn't scold, she just added it to the things to repair pile. "Why aren't you mad at us?" Trevor asked suddenly, holding up a toy robot missing both arms. "Why would I be mad?" "Because we mess everything up. Everyone gets mad at us." Candace sat back on her heels and looked at both boys seriously. "You know what I think? I think you mess things up because you're sad. And when people are sad, sometimes they do things that don't make sense." Tyler's carefully constructed mask slipped for just a moment. "We're not sad." "Okay," Candace said mildly. "But if you ever wanted to talk about feeling sad, I'm a good listener." By lunchtime, both bedrooms were transformed. Not perfect but clean and organized. The boys seemed almost proud of their accomplishment, especially when Lily complimented their hard work. "Can we watch TV now?" Trevor asked. "Of course. You've earned it." As the children settled in the living room, Candace felt a small surge of hope. She'd made it through her first morning without any major disasters, and more importantly, she'd seen glimpses of the real children beneath the destructive behavior. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "How's the first day going?" She typed back, "Still standing. The boys are watching TV and their rooms are clean." A few minutes later, her phone rang. "You got them to clean their rooms?" Nathan's voice held disbelief. "We cleaned them together," Candace corrected. "They just needed someone to show them how and work alongside them." There was a pause. "Most nannies try to impose authority from day one." "I'm not most nannies, Mr. Pierce. I'm a mother. I understand that children need guidance, not domination." "Indeed." She could hear the approval in his voice. I'll be home around 6. Thank you, Miss Johnson. For everything. As Candace hung up the phone, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. She'd not only survived her first day, she'd actually made progress. And for the first time in months, she felt like she and Lily were exactly where they belonged. By the end of her second week, Candace had begun to understand the complex dynamics of the Pierce household. Nathan left early each morning and returned late each evening, burying himself in work as a way to avoid the emotional chaos his sons created. The twins had learned that destruction brought attention, negative attention, but attention nonetheless from a father who seemed otherwise unreachable. The breakthrough came on a Thursday afternoon when Lily had an asthma attack. Candace had taken all 3 children to the mansion's backyard, where they'd been playing a game of tag among the elaborate gardens. Lily had been laughing as she ran, her face bright with joy at having friends for the first time in years. Then suddenly she stopped, her hand pressed to her chest, gasping for air. "Mama," she wheezed, her lips already taking on a bluish tinge. Candace rushed to her daughter's side, frantically digging through her purse for the rescue inhaler. Her hands shook as she realized it was empty. She'd meant to get it refilled yesterday but had been too busy settling into their new routine. "Tyler, Trevor, I need you to run inside and get Mrs. Rodriguez," she said, trying to keep her voice calm while panic clawed at her throat. "Tell her Lily needs to go to the hospital right now." But instead of running for help, both boys crowded closer to Lily, their faces pale with concern. "What's wrong with her?" Trevor whispered. "She can't breathe," Tyler said, his usual calculating demeanor replaced by genuine fear. "She's turning blue." "It's asthma," Candace explained quickly, scooping Lily into her arms. "She needs medicine and we need to get to a hospital." She started toward the house, carrying Lily while the twins ran alongside her. But before they could reach the door, Nathan's black sedan pulled into the driveway. He emerged from the car already reaching for his phone, having clearly seen the commotion from the street. "What happened?" he demanded, striding toward them. "Asthma attack," Candace gasped. "Her inhaler's empty. She needs emergency treatment." Without hesitation, Nathan swept Lily from Candace's arms and headed for his car. "Get in. Both of you boys too." The ride to the hospital was the longest 15 minutes of Candace's life. Nathan drove with calm precision while she held Lily in the back seat, murmuring reassurances she didn't feel. The twins sat silently on either side of them, their small hands reaching out to pat Lily's arms and back. "She's going to be okay," Tyler whispered, his voice shaky. "Right, Miss Candace?" "Yes, baby. She's going to be fine." At the hospital, Nathan took charge immediately. He spoke to the intake nurse with the same commanding presence he brought to business meetings, ensuring Lily was seen immediately. Within minutes, they had her in a treatment room with oxygen and medications that slowly restored her normal breathing. As they waited for the doctor to complete his examination, Candace found herself alone in the hallway with Nathan while the twins sat with Lily, reading her stories from a book Nathan had somehow procured from the gift shop. "I'm so sorry," Candace said, tears finally spilling over. "I should have had her inhaler refilled. I should have been more careful. If anything had happened to her." "Hey," Nathan said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "This isn't your fault. Medical emergencies happen. But I'm supposed to protect her. She's all I have." Nathan was quiet for a moment, studying her tear-streaked face. "How long has she had asthma?" "Since she was 4. It's gotten worse over the past year, probably because of the stress and the poor air quality in our old apartment building. The medications are expensive and our insurance." She trailed off, realizing she was telling her wealthy employer about problems he couldn't possibly understand. "What kind of insurance did you have?" "Basic coverage through my old job. It covered maybe 60% of her prescriptions, and the deductible was so high we could never afford to meet it." Nathan nodded slowly. "The insurance plan I provide covers 100% of prescription medications and has no deductible for emergency care." Candace stared at him. "Are you saying today won't cost me anything?" "Not a penny. That's what insurance is for." She started crying again, this time from relief and gratitude. "Mr. Pierce, I don't know how to thank you. The insurance alone is worth more than my salary at my old job. You don't need to thank me. You're taking excellent care of my sons and they're part of our family now. That makes Lily family too." Before Candace could respond, Dr. Martinez emerged from Lily's room with a gentle smile. "She's going to be fine," he announced. "We've got her breathing stabilized and I'm prescribing a new inhaler plus a backup for emergencies. I'd also like to refer her to a pediatric pulmonologist to get her on a better long-term management plan." "Whatever she needs," Nathan said immediately. Cost is not a concern. Dr. Martinez handed Candace a packet of information. The specialist I'm recommending is excellent, but she's not cheap. Most insurance plans require pre-authorization for her services. I'll handle the insurance, Nathan said. Schedule the appointment as soon as possible. As they drove home that evening, Lily sleeping peacefully in her car seat with her new inhaler clutched in her small fist, Candace watched Nathan in the rearview mirror. He was pointing out different landmarks to Tyler and Trevor, engaging with them in a way she'd never seen before. Dad, Tyler said suddenly, Lily was really scared. I know, buddy. It's scary when someone you care about gets sick. Are we going to take care of her? Trevor asked. Of course we are. She's part of our family now. Candace felt her throat tighten with emotion. In the space of a few hours, everything had changed. Nathan hadn't just provided medical care for her daughter, he'd claimed them both as family, offering protection and security she'd never dared to dream of. That night, after the children were all tucked safely in bed, Nathan knocked on her door. How is she? He asked softly. Perfect. The new medication is working beautifully. Candace hesitated, then forged ahead. Mr. Pierce, what you did today? I'll never be able to repay you. I don't want repayment. I want you to know that you and Lily are safe here. Whatever she needs medically, whatever either of you need, you just have to ask. I can't ask you for more than you've already given. Nathan smiled, and for the first time since she'd known him, it reached his eyes. Miss Johnson, you've given my sons something I thought they'd lost forever. You've given them hope and stability and someone who doesn't give up on them. Let me give you the same thing. As he walked away, Candace realized that somewhere in the chaos of emergency rooms and frightened children, they'd all become something unexpected, a family. And for the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. 3 weeks into her employment, Candace was beginning to see the real children beneath Tyler and Trevor's carefully constructed masks of destruction. The change hadn't happened overnight, it was more like watching ice slowly melt, revealing the warmth that had been frozen underneath. The shift began with small things. Trevor started bringing her broken toys to fix instead of just throwing them away. Tyler asked questions about Lily's homework and began helping her with math problems. Most surprisingly, both boys had started voluntarily cleaning up after themselves, not because they were told to, but because they'd begun to take pride in their spaces. Nathan noticed the changes too. He'd started coming home earlier, often arriving in time for dinner. Tonight was no different. He walked through the door just as Candace was setting plates around the large kitchen table. Perfect timing, she said, smiling as he loosened his tie. We're having spaghetti and meatballs. My favorite. Trevor announced, already seated and swinging his legs under the table. Everything's your favorite when Miss Candace cooks it, Tyler pointed out with 8-year-old logic. Nathan took his place at the head of the table, a position that had felt formal and distant when Candace first arrived but now seemed natural and warm. How was everyone's day? Lily taught us to play a new game, Tyler said, twirling spaghetti around his fork with concentration. It's called kindness tag. When you tag someone, you have to say something nice about them. That sounds like a wonderful game, Nathan said, his eyes finding Candace across the table. Did you invent it, Lily? Lily blushed and shook her head. Mama taught it to me when I was little. She said being kind is more fun than being mean. Your mama is very wise, Nathan said softly. After dinner, as had become their routine, the children settled in the living room for an hour of television while Nathan and Candace cleaned the kitchen together. It was a domestic scene that felt surprisingly natural, both of them moving around the space with practiced efficiency. They're different children than they were a month ago, Nathan observed, loading dishes into the dishwasher. They were always good children, Candace replied, wiping down the counters. They just needed someone to see that goodness and nurture it. The school called today, Nathan said, and Candace felt her stomach clench with worry. Don't look like that, it was good news. Their teacher says their behavior has improved dramatically. No disruptions in class, homework turned in on time, and Tyler helped a new student feel welcome. Candace felt tears prick her eyes. Really? Really? She wanted to know what we'd changed at home. Nathan paused in his loading to look at her directly. I told her we'd found the right person to love them. The word love hung in the air between them, and Candace felt something shift in her chest. Somewhere along the way she had fallen in love with these boys not just as charges to care for, but as the children she'd never thought she'd have. Mr. Pierce, she began, then stopped. The formal distance of his title felt wrong in this warm, domestic moment. Nathan, I need to tell you something. He turned to face her fully, his gray eyes attentive. When I took this job, I was desperate. I would have accepted anything to keep Lily safe and housed. But this. She gestured around the kitchen, toward the living room where the children's laughter echoed. This has become so much more than a job. These boys, this family, you've all become precious to me. Nathan stepped closer, and Candace could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that made her pulse quicken. You've become precious to us too. More than you know. Before either of them could say more, Tyler appeared in the doorway. Dad, can we have ice cream? We finished our homework and Lily helped us practice reading. Of course, Nathan said, his eyes still on Candace. But just one scoop each. As the evening wound down and the children headed to bed, Nathan surprised Candace with an announcement. I've been thinking, he said as they climbed the stairs together. The guest suite you and Lily are using, it's quite far from the boys' rooms. If there was another emergency like Lily's asthma attack, you might not hear them if they needed help. They could call for me, Candace said, though she'd had the same concern. There's a suite on the second floor, much closer to Tyler and Trevor's rooms. It's larger too. Lily would have her own sitting area for homework and reading. Candace felt that familiar flutter of gratitude mixed with disbelief. That's very generous, but I don't want to impose. We're perfectly comfortable where we are. It's not an imposition. It's practical. And Candace. He used her first name deliberately, the sound of it on his lips making her heart skip. I want you and Lily to be as comfortable as possible here. This is your home now. Home. The word carried weight she hadn't expected. This mansion, with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, had somehow become more than just a place to live. It had become the sanctuary she'd never thought they'd find. Thank you, she whispered, meaning so much more than just the room. There's something else, Nathan continued, his voice suddenly hesitant. This weekend is the boys' birthday. They'll be 9. In the past, I've hired party planners, rented out venues, tried to make everything perfect. But they never seemed happy with any of it. What would make them happy? I was hoping you might have ideas. You understand them in ways I'm still learning. Candace thought about Tyler and Trevor, their need for attention, their desire to feel special, their newfound appreciation for simple pleasures. What if we had a party here? Nothing elaborate, just family. We could let them help plan it, make them feel involved in their own celebration. Nathan's face lit up with something that might have been relief. You think they'd prefer that to a big production? I think they'd prefer having your attention and involvement over any party planner could provide. Then that's what we'll do. Will you help me plan it? Of course. But Nathan? She used his name deliberately now, claiming the intimacy he'd offered. The best gift you can give them is your time. They don't need expensive presents or elaborate parties. They need their father. Something vulnerable flickered across Nathan's features. I've been so afraid of not being enough for them. After their mother left, I threw myself into work because I didn't know how to be both parents. You don't have to be both parents, Candace said gently. You just have to be their father. And you're already more than enough. The next morning brought a new energy to the house. When Nathan announced at breakfast that the twins could help plan their own birthday party, their faces lit up with excitement. Can we have a treasure hunt? Trevor asked eagerly. And can Lily help us hide the clues? Tyler added. Whatever you want, Nathan promised, and Candace felt her heart warm at the genuine joy in his voice. Over the next few days, the household transformed into a party planning headquarters. The children drew decorations, helped bake their own cake, and created elaborate treasure maps. Nathan took time off work to join in the preparations, and Candace watched him rediscover the simple pleasure of playing with his sons. The night before the party, as she tucked Lily into bed in their new, beautiful suite, her daughter looked up at her with serious brown eyes. Mama, are we going to stay here forever? Do you want to stay here forever? Lily nodded emphatically. Tyler and Trevor are like the brothers I always wanted. And Mr. Nathan is nice to us. He makes sure I have my medicine and he reads bedtime stories. He does, doesn't he? And Mama? I think he likes you the way princes like princesses in fairy tales. Candace's breath caught. What makes you think that? He looks at you the way Daddy looked at you in the pictures before he went away. Like you're the most beautiful thing in the world. As Candace kissed her daughter goodnight and turned off the lights, she couldn't shake Lily's words. Because the truth was, she'd begun to feel something for Nathan too, something that went far beyond gratitude or professional respect. Something that felt dangerously close to love. And tomorrow, as they celebrated his son's birthday together like a real family, she wondered if he might be feeling the same thing. The twins' birthday dawned bright and clear, with the kind of perfect autumn weather that seemed designed for celebration. Candace woke early to put the finishing touches on the treasure hunt, hiding clues throughout the mansion's gardens while the morning dew still sparkled on the grass. She found Nathan in the kitchen, already dressed but looking uncharacteristically nervous as he arranged birthday presents on the counter. "Having second thoughts about the party?" she asked gently. "Having second thoughts about everything," he admitted, running a hand through his dark hair. "What if they don't like what I picked out? What if the party isn't special enough? What if I mess this up like I've messed up so many other things with them?" Candace stepped closer, close enough to place a reassuring hand on his arm. "Nathan, look at me. You haven't messed anything up. You're learning just like they are. Just like we all are." He looked down at her, and she was struck again by how handsome he was, not just his features, but the kindness that had begun to show more clearly in his gray eyes. "When did you become so wise?" he asked softly. "When I became a mother. It forces you to figure out what really matters." "And what really matters?" "Love. Presence. Showing up even when you're scared you'll do it wrong." Before Nathan could respond, the thunder of small feet on the stairs announced the arrival of the birthday boys, with Lily close behind them. "Is it time for presents?" Trevor asked, his eyes bright with excitement. "Is it time for cake?" Tyler added hopefully. "It's time for birthday breakfast first," Candace laughed. "Then presents, then treasure hunt, then lunch, and then cake. We have a whole day planned." The morning unfolded like something from a storybook. Nathan had chosen his gifts perfectly: art supplies for creative Tyler, sports equipment for active Trevor, and books for all three children. But the real magic happened during the treasure hunt. Watching Nathan crawl under bushes to help the children find clues, his expensive shirt getting dirty as he laughed at their excitement, Candace felt something shift permanently in her heart. This wasn't the distant, workaholic father she'd first met. This was a man who was learning to be present, learning to play, learning to be the father his sons needed. "Miss Candace, come help us," Trevor called from across the garden. "We found the clue but we can't figure out what it means." She jogged over to where all four of them were huddled around a piece of paper, their heads bent together in concentration. "It says, 'Where books sleep when day is done,'" Tyler read aloud. "What does that mean?" "Where do books sleep, Lily?" Candace asked, giving her daughter a chance to shine. "On bookshelves," Lily announced proudly. The hunt continued through the house, leading finally to the library where the final treasure waited: not gold or jewels, but something far more precious. Nathan had commissioned a photo album filled with pictures of their new family, including professional portraits taken just the week before without the children knowing. "Look," Tyler breathed, turning the pages carefully. "We look like a real family." "We are a real family," Nathan said firmly, and Candace felt tears prick her eyes at the conviction in his voice. After lunch, as the children played in the garden with their new toys, Nathan found Candace in the kitchen putting away the last of the party dishes. "Thank you," he said simply. "Today was perfect." They were so happy. They were happy because their father was present and engaged. "You did that, Nathan. Not me. We did that. Together." He moved closer, and Candace felt the air between them change, becoming charged with possibility. "Candace, I need to tell you something." Her heart started beating faster. "What is it?" "When I hired you, I thought I needed someone to manage my children's behavior. I never expected to find someone who would change all of our lives." "Nathan, let me finish. You've brought light back into this house. You've shown my sons what unconditional love looks like. You've shown me what I was missing by hiding behind work and fear." He reached up to cup her face gently, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "You've shown me what it means to be part of a real family again." "I feel the same way," she whispered. "All of us, we've healed each other. I'm falling in love with you, Candace. I think I have been since that first day when you saved the goldfish instead of lecturing my sons about the mess they'd made." Her breath caught. "I'm falling in love with you too. With all of you. This family we've become." When he kissed her, it was gentle and sweet, full of promise and new beginnings. Through the kitchen window, she could see the children playing together in the garden, Tyler helping Lily reach the monkey bars, Trevor pushing her on the swing, all three of them laughing with pure joy. "What happens now?" she asked against his lips. "Now we keep building this beautiful life together. If you want to." "I want to," she said without hesitation. "I want all of it. You, the boys, this family we've created. Even if it means dealing with my demanding schedule and my tendency to overthink everything?" Candace laughed. "Even if it means dealing with my stubborn independence and my habit of putting everyone else's needs before my own." "We'll figure it out together," Nathan promised. "All of it. The work-life balance, the parenting decisions, the logistics of blending our lives completely." Together, she agreed. That evening, as they tucked the children into bed, all three of them now settled on the second floor near each other. Candace marveled at how much had changed since that desperate morning when she'd applied for a nanny position. She'd found so much more than a job. She'd found a home, a family, and a love she'd never thought possible. "Miss Candace?" Trevor's sleepy voice called from his bedroom. "Will you still be here tomorrow?" "I'll be here tomorrow and every day after that," she promised, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "Good," he mumbled, already drifting off to sleep. "I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart." As she and Nathan stood in the hallway between their children's rooms, his arm around her waist, Candace knew that accepting this job had been the best decision of her life. Not just because it had saved her and Lily from homelessness, but because it had given them something infinitely more valuable. It had given them a family. 6 months had passed since that first desperate interview, and the Pierce mansion had transformed from a cold, echoing showplace into a warm, lived-in home. Laughter rang through the hallways, children's artwork adorned the refrigerator, and every room bore the comfortable marks of a family that actually lived there. Candace stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the simple but elegant navy dress Nathan had surprised her with the week before. Tonight was special. He'd asked her to dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant, claiming they needed to celebrate the 6-month anniversary of her employment. But something in his eyes, a nervous energy she'd never seen before, told her this evening would be about more than work anniversaries. "Mama, you look like a princess," Lily said from the doorway, resplendent in her own new dress, a soft pink creation that made her dark skin glow. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself." Mrs. Rodriguez had agreed to watch all 3 children for the evening, though Tyler and Trevor had protested that they were old enough to babysit themselves. The boys had grown so much in the past months, not just physically but emotionally. Their destructive tendencies had all but disappeared, replaced by creativity and helpfulness that amazed everyone who knew them. "Are you nervous?" Lily asked with the perceptiveness of a child who'd learned to read adult emotions carefully. "A little," Candace admitted. "But good nervous. Like when you're about to open a present you really want." Downstairs, Nathan was waiting in the foyer, and Candace's breath caught at the sight of him. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, but it was the expression on his face, tender and proud and slightly anxious, that made her heart race. "You look incredible," he said softly, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips. "So do you," she replied, meaning it completely. The restaurant was everything she'd expected: crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and prices that would have made her old self faint. But Nathan's attention was focused entirely on her, not the elegant surroundings. "Do you remember our first dinner together?" he asked as they settled at their table. "You mean when Tyler put salt in your coffee and Trevor hid rubber spiders in my salad?" Nathan laughed. "And you just calmly removed the spiders and drank your water while I panicked about what you must think of us." "I thought you were a family that needed each other," Candace said. "I still think that. We did need each other. We still do." Nathan reached across the table to take her hand. "Candace, these past 6 months have been the happiest of my life. You've given me my sons back, given me a sense of home I thought I'd lost forever." "You've given me the same thing," she said. "Security, love, a place where Lily and I belong." "I want to make it official," Nathan said, his voice suddenly thick with emotion. "I want us to be a real family in every sense of the word." Candace's heart stopped as Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "Nathan," she whispered. "I know this might seem fast by conventional standards," he said, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring that caught the candlelight and threw rainbows across the white tablecloth. "But nothing about our relationship has been conventional. We didn't date for months and slowly get to know each other. We jumped straight into the deep end of family life, and it's been perfect." Tears sprang to Candace's eyes as she stared at the ring, not because it was expensive, though it clearly was, but because it represented everything she'd never dared to dream of. "You've seen me at my worst," Nathan continued. "You've seen my children at their worst. You've dealt with medical emergencies and behavioral meltdowns and the chaos of trying to blend our lives together. And through all of it, you've never wavered, never given up, never made any of us feel like we were too much trouble. Because you're not trouble," Candace said through her tears. "You're home. Will you marry me?" Nathan asked simply. "Will you be my wife, Tyler and Trevor's mother, and let me be Lily's father in every way that matters?" The answer was in her heart before he finished speaking. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, of course, yes." The ring fit perfectly, as if it had been made for her finger. Nathan came around the table to kiss her, and she could taste the salt of happy tears on both their lips. "The children are going to be thrilled," she said when they finally broke apart. "Actually," Nathan said with a slightly guilty expression, "they already know. I asked their permission first." "You did?" Tyler said, and I quote, "Finally, Dad. We were wondering when you'd figure out you love her." And Trevor wanted to know if this meant they could officially call you Mom. Fresh tears spilled down Candace's cheeks. "And what did you tell them?" "I told them that was up to you. But I hoped you'd say yes to that too. I can't think of anything I'd love more than being their mother officially." They talked through dinner about practical things: when to have the wedding, where to honeymoon, how to handle the legal adoption process for both children. But underneath the logistics was pure joy, the satisfaction of pieces falling into place exactly as they were meant to. When they arrived home, they found Mrs. Rodriguez in the kitchen with all three children, who were supposed to be in bed but were clearly too excited to sleep. "Did she say yes?" Tyler demanded the moment they walked through the door. Nathan held up Candace's left hand, where the diamond caught the kitchen lights and sparkled brilliantly. The cheer that went up from the children could probably be heard 3 houses away. Lily threw herself into Candace's arms, while Tyler and Trevor launched themselves at Nathan, all of them talking at once. "When's the wedding? Can I be the flower girl? Do we get to be best men? Can we plan the party? Will Lily really be our sister?" Nathan and Candace exchanged looks over the children's heads, both of them laughing at the enthusiastic chaos. "Yes to all of it," Nathan announced. "We're going to be a real family, officially and forever." "We already were a real family," Trevor pointed out with 9-year-old logic. "We just didn't have the paperwork." That night, after the children had finally been convinced to go to bed, though Candace suspected they'd stay awake whispering about wedding plans, she and Nathan sat on the couch in their living room, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. "Only one," Candace said, tilting her head to look at him. "What's that?" "I wish I could go back and tell that scared, desperate woman who applied for this job that everything was going to be okay. That sometimes the scariest leaps lead to the softest landings." Nathan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "She was brave enough to take the chance. That's what brought us here." "We brought us here," Candace corrected. "All of us together." As they sat in comfortable silence, planning their future and marveling at how perfectly their broken pieces had fit together to create something beautiful and whole, Candace knew she would spend the rest of her life grateful for that moment of desperate courage that had led her to answer Nathan's job posting. She'd applied to be a nanny. Instead, she'd become a wife, a mother, and the heart of a family that was stronger for having been built from love rather than just biology. The wedding took place 6 weeks later in the mansion's garden, transformed into something magical by the children's enthusiastic planning and Nathan's unlimited resources. White roses and fairy lights created an enchanted atmosphere, while a string quartet played softly as guests took their seats on the perfectly manicured lawn. Candace stood at the French doors leading to the garden, her heart racing with joy rather than nerves. Her wedding dress was simple but elegant, flowing ivory silk that made her feel like royalty. Lily stood beside her in pink silk, clutching a basket of rose petals and beaming with excitement at her role as flower girl. "Ready, Mama?" Lily whispered. "More than ready, sweetheart." Nathan waited at the altar they'd constructed beneath the old oak tree, Tyler and Trevor standing proudly beside him as his best men. All 3 of them wore matching navy suits, and the love and happiness on their faces made Candace's eyes fill with tears of joy. The ceremony was intimate, just 30 guests including Mrs. Rodriguez, Nathan's business partner, Candace's sister, and a few close friends who had watched their unusual love story unfold. But it felt perfect, surrounded by the people who mattered most. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of 2 people who have already proven that love can transform lives and create families in the most beautiful ways." When it came time for vows, Nathan spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Candace, 6 months ago I thought I was hiring a nanny. Instead, I found a partner, a best friend, and the missing piece of our family puzzle. You taught my sons what unconditional love looks like. You taught me that being vulnerable doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. You took a house and made it a home, took a collection of individuals and made us a family." He paused, his voice growing thick with emotion. "I promise to love you and cherish you, to support your dreams and share your burdens. I promise to be the husband you deserve and the father Lily needs. I promise that our love will continue to grow stronger every day, because that's what you've taught us, that love isn't something that runs out, it's something that multiplies when it's shared." Candace wiped away tears as she began her own vows. Nathan, when I applied for a job as your nanny, I was desperate and scared. I thought I was asking for employment, but you gave me so much more. You gave me security when I had none, hope when I'd lost it, and love when I thought it was impossible. She looked toward the boys, including them in her promises. Tyler and Trevor, you taught me that family isn't just about blood, it's about choosing to love each other every day, even when it's hard. You've made me not just Nathan's wife, but a mother in the truest sense of the word. Turning back to Nathan, she concluded, I promise to love all of you with everything I have. I promise to build this family with you, to face whatever challenges come our way together, and to never stop believing in the magic we've created. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan's kiss was gentle but full of promise, while cheers erupted from their small but enthusiastic audience. Tyler and Trevor immediately sandwiched them in a group hug, followed quickly by Lily, creating a family embrace that perfectly captured what they'd all become. The reception was held on the same lawn, with dancing under the stars and a cake that the children had insisted on helping to bake. Nathan's first dance with his new wife was to At Last by Etta James, and as they swayed together under the fairy lights, Candace marveled at how completely her life had changed. Any regrets, Mrs. Pierce? Nathan murmured against her ear. Just one, she said, echoing their conversation from the night he proposed. What's that? I wish I could slow down time and make this moment last forever. We have forever, Nathan reminded her. This is just the beginning. Later, as the last guest departed and the children were finally convinced to go to bed despite their excitement, Nathan and Candace found themselves alone in their bedroom, officially sharing it for the first time as husband and wife. It feels different, Candace observed, settling into Nathan's arms on their bed. What feels different? Being married. I know we've been a family for months, but making it official. It feels like the final piece clicking into place. Nathan traced patterns on her arm with his fingertips. Speaking of making things official, I have something for you. He reached into the nightstand and withdrew a manila folder. Adoption papers. For Lily. If you want me to be her legal father as well as her dad in every other way. Candace's breath caught. Nathan, are you sure? That's a huge responsibility. I've been her father in my heart since the day she had that asthma attack, and I realized I'd do anything to protect her. This just makes it legal. And the boys? I've already started the paperwork for you to adopt them too. They've been asking for weeks when they can officially call you Mom instead of Miss Candace. Fresh tears spilled down Candace's cheeks. I love you so much. All of you. We love you too. More than we ever thought possible. As they lay together in the darkness, listening to the quiet sounds of their children sleeping peacefully down the hall, Candace reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From that desperate morning when she'd faced eviction to this perfect evening when she'd married the man of her dreams and officially become mother to 3 beautiful children. Nathan, she whispered, what are you thinking about? How sometimes the best things in life come from the worst circumstances. If I hadn't been desperate enough to apply for a job I wasn't qualified for, if the twins hadn't driven away every other nanny, if you hadn't been brave enough to take a chance on us. But all of those things did happen, Nathan said softly. Because we were meant to find each other. We were meant to be a family. Do you really believe that? I believe that love finds a way, Nathan said, pulling her closer. And our love was strong enough to overcome every obstacle, to heal every hurt, to bring us all home to each other. As Candace drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, she knew he was right. Love had found a way through desperation and hope, through chaos and healing, through the simple act of showing up for each other every single day. They were a family now, official and forever, and nothing would ever change that. 1 year into their marriage, Candace thought she had experienced every possible emotion in the spectrum of family life. Joy, frustration, pride, worry, overwhelming love. She'd felt it all as they'd navigated the complexities of blending their lives completely. But nothing had prepared her for the phone call that came on a Tuesday morning in October. Mrs. Pierce? Nathan's assistant Patricia sounded unusually strained. I need you to come to the office immediately. There's been a situation. Candace's blood ran cold. What kind of situation? Is Nathan hurt? He's not hurt, but please just come. He needs you. The 20-minute drive to Pierce Holdings felt like hours. Candace's mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Nathan had been working long hours lately, dealing with some kind of major project he'd been reluctant to discuss in detail. She'd noticed the stress lines around his eyes, the way he'd started checking his phone obsessively even during family dinners. She found Nathan in his office, staring out the window at the city skyline. His normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, tie loosened, shirt wrinkled, hair mussed as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Nathan?" she said softly, closing the door behind her. He turned and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before: defeat. "It's over," he said simply. 20 years of building this company and it's over." "What are you talking about?" Nathan sank into his chair, suddenly looking older than his 37 years. "Remember the Morrison acquisition I've been working on? The one that was supposed to secure our future for the next decade?" Candace nodded, settling into the chair across from his desk. "Morrison was playing us the entire time. They fed us false information, let us invest millions in preparation for the merger, then sold to our biggest competitor instead. The contract we signed had a clause I missed: if the deal fell through due to their decision, we'd be liable for their expenses as well as our own." The words hit Candace like physical blows. "How much?" $42 million. "Money we don't have without liquidating everything." Nathan's voice was hollow. "The house, the cars, the children's trust funds, everything. And even then it might not be enough." Candace felt the room spin around her. After everything they'd built, everything they'd overcome, they were facing financial ruin. But as she looked at her husband's devastated face, she realized the money wasn't what mattered most. "Nathan, look at me." He raised his eyes to hers, and she saw the fear there, not just of losing his wealth, but of losing everything they'd built together. "Do you remember what you told me the night you proposed?" she asked gently. "I told you a lot of things that night. You said nothing about our relationship had been conventional, that we jumped into the deep end of family life and it had been perfect." Nathan nodded slowly. "This is just another deep end," Candace said, reaching across the desk to take his hands. "And we're going to jump in together just like we always do. Candace, you don't understand. We might lose the house. We might have to start over with nothing." "We won't have nothing," she said firmly. "We'll have each other. We'll have the children. We'll have love and determination and the knowledge that we've overcome challenges before. But the kids' schools, Lily's medical care, the life we've built for them. We'll figure it out. All of it. Together." Candace stood and walked around the desk to him, pulling him into her arms. "Nathan, do you think I fell in love with your bank account? No, but do you think Tyler and Trevor love you because you buy them expensive toys? Of course not. And do you think Lily cares that we live in a mansion, or does she care that she has a daddy who reads her bedtime stories and takes her to the doctor when she's sick?" Nathan sagged against her, and she felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. "You're right. I know you're right. It's just, I wanted to give you everything. Security, comfort, the life you deserved after struggling for so long." "You did give me everything," Candace said, stroking his hair. "You gave me a family. Everything else is just details." That evening they sat the children down for what Nathan called a family meeting. Candace watched him struggle to find the right words to explain their situation without frightening them. "Kids, you know how sometimes in school you have to take a really hard test?" he began. "Like when we had to do those math problems that made Trevor cry?" Tyler asked. "Hey, they were really hard." Trevor protested. "Exactly like that," Nathan continued. "Well, Daddy's company is facing a really hard test right now. And it means we might have to make some changes in how we live." "What kind of changes?" Lily asked, her voice small with worry. Candace reached over to squeeze her daughter's hand. "We might have to move to a smaller house. You might have to go to different schools. But the most important thing, our family that will never change." "Will we still be together?" Trevor asked, the question that mattered most to all of them. "Always," Nathan said firmly. "No matter what else happens, we'll always be together." Tyler, ever the thoughtful one, studied his parents' faces carefully. "Are you scared, Dad?" Nathan considered lying, giving them a brave front. But one of the things Candace had taught him was the value of honesty with children. "Yeah, buddy. I'm a little scared. But you know what makes me feel better?" "What?" "Knowing that I have the strongest, smartest, most loving family in the world to help me figure this out." Over the next few weeks, as lawyers and accountants worked to determine exactly how bad the situation was, the Pierce family pulled together in ways that surprised everyone. The children helped research less expensive schools and smaller houses. Mrs. Rodriguez offered to take a pay cut to stay with them. Even Patricia at the office volunteered to work extra hours without overtime pay. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. "Dad," Tyler said one evening as Nathan helped him with homework, "Trevor and I have been talking." "About what?" "We want to give you our birthday money. And our Christmas money. And all the money in our piggy banks." Nathan's throat tightened with emotion. "Boys, that's very generous, but..." It's not charity, Trevor interrupted with 9-year-old seriousness. It's family helping family. That's what Mom taught us. Nathan looked across the room where Candace was helping Lily with her reading, and their eyes met. In that moment he realized that no matter what happened with the business, no matter what they lost or had to give up, they had already won the only prize that truly mattered. You know what? He said, pulling both boys into a hug. You're absolutely right. Family helps family. As they worked together to face the crisis, Nathan began to understand something he'd never fully grasped before. Success wasn't about the size of your bank account or the value of your possessions. Success was having people who loved you enough to stand by you when everything else fell apart. And by that measure he was the richest man in the world. The resolution came on a Friday morning, 18 months after the Morrison debacle had nearly destroyed everything Nathan had built. Candace was in the kitchen of their new, much smaller house, a charming 4-bedroom colonial in a middle-class neighborhood, when Nathan burst through the door with an expression she hadn't seen in over a year. Pure, unrestrained joy. "Candace," he called, his voice echoing through their modest but happy home. "Kids. Family meeting. Emergency family meeting." Tyler, Trevor, and Lily came running from various parts of the house, their faces showing the same concern they'd learned to associate with serious family discussions over the past year and a half. "What's wrong now?" Trevor asked, his 10-year-old voice carrying a weariness that broke Candace's heart. "Nothing's wrong," Nathan said, his grin so wide it looked like it might split his face. "Everything's right. Everything's perfect." He pulled out his phone and showed them a news article with a headline that made Candace's knees go weak. Morrison Industries CEO arrested for fraud, multiple companies to receive restitution. "What does that mean?" Lily asked, struggling with the big words. "It means," Nathan said, scooping her up and spinning her around, "that the man who cheated our company has been caught. And we're getting our money back. All of it, plus damages." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Trevor whispered, "Does this mean we can move back to the big house?" "If we want to," Nathan said. "But here's the thing, I want to know what you all want. This family makes decisions together now." Candace felt tears spring to her eyes. The man who had once made unilateral decisions about everything now wouldn't even choose where they lived without consulting his family. "Can I say something first?" she asked, taking Nathan's free hand while he still held Lily. "Of course. This past year and a half has been hard. Really hard. But it's also been beautiful. We've learned what we're made of as a family. We've learned that we can survive anything as long as we have each other." Tyler nodded seriously. "And we learned that happiness doesn't come from big houses or expensive stuff. We learned that Dad is still the best dad in the world even when he's scared," Trevor added. "And we learned that love grows stronger when you share problems instead of trying to fix them alone," Lily said with wisdom beyond her 9 years. Nathan set Lily down and pulled all of them into a group hug. "You're absolutely right. All of you. And that's why I want us to decide together what comes next." They spent the next hour around their small kitchen table, the same table where they'd shared countless meals, homework sessions, and heart-to-heart conversations during their time in the smaller house. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had indeed stayed with them at reduced pay, made hot chocolate while they talked. "I like the big house," Tyler said honestly. "But I like this one too. Here we're all closer together." "The mansion had that huge playroom," Trevor mused, "but we ended up spending most of our time in the kitchen anyway." "I liked having my own bathroom," Lily admitted, "but I also liked being close enough to hear Mom and Dad talking at night when I couldn't sleep." Nathan looked at Candace. "What do you think?" "I think," she said carefully, "that home isn't about the size of the house. It's about the people in it. But I also think we've proven we can be happy anywhere, so maybe we should choose based on what's practical for our family now. The schools here are actually better," Nathan pointed out. "And the neighborhood kids have become good friends with ours. Plus," Tyler added with a grin, "we already painted our rooms exactly how we wanted them. And Mrs. Rodriguez finally has a garden she can manage by herself," Trevor pointed out. In the end, they decided to stay in their smaller house but use part of the restored fortune to create an even better life. Nathan bought the house next door and had it converted into his home office, eliminating his commute and allowing him to be present for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. They set up college funds for all 3 children, established a charitable foundation, and invested the rest conservatively. "No more high-stakes business deals," Nathan declared. "From now on I invest in sure things. Family businesses, established companies, boring but stable opportunities." "Boring can be beautiful," Candace agreed, thinking of how much peace they'd all found in their simpler life. 6 months later, They celebrated the second anniversary of Nathan and Candace's marriage with a backyard barbecue that included their neighbors, the children's friends, and Mrs. Rodriguez's extended family. As Candace watched Nathan flip burgers while simultaneously helping Trevor set up a badminton net and listening to Lily practice her spelling words, she marveled at the transformation. This was the man who had once been too busy for family dinners, too stressed for bedtime stories, too afraid of vulnerability to truly connect with his children. Now he was the father who coached Tyler's science fair project, attended every one of Trevor's soccer games, and had never missed reading Lily her bedtime story. "Mama," Lily said, appearing at Candace's side, "are you happy?" "Happier than I ever thought possible, sweetheart." "Are you?" "So happy I feel like I might float away," Lily said seriously. "Do you think we'll always be this happy?" Candace considered the question carefully. "I think we'll have sad times and worried times and times when things are hard. But I think we'll always have each other, and as long as we have that, we'll be able to find our way back to happy." "That's what I think too," Lily said, then skipped away to join her brothers in their game. That night, after the guests had gone home and the children were asleep, Nathan and Candace sat on their back porch swing, listening to the crickets and watching the stars. "Any regrets?" Nathan asked, the question that had become their traditional check-in. "Just one," Candace said, smiling at their running joke. "What's that?" "I wish I could tell that scared single mother who answered your job posting that someday she'd be sitting on her own porch with her husband, watching their children play in a yard that belonged to them, surrounded by friends who had become family." "She wouldn't have believed you," Nathan pointed out. "No, she wouldn't have. It would have seemed too much like a fairy tale." Nathan pulled her closer, and she nestled against his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with barbecue smoke and contentment. "Maybe that's what the best love stories are," he said softly. "Fairy tales that happen to real people who are brave enough to believe in happy endings." "Do you think this is our happy ending?" Candace asked. "I think this is our happy beginning," Nathan corrected. "We've got years and years ahead of us. Watching the kids grow up, graduate, maybe have children of their own. Growing old together, facing whatever challenges come our way. Together," Candace agreed. "Always together." As they swayed gently on the porch swing, surrounded by the sounds of their sleeping neighborhood and the visible evidence of the life they'd built together, Candace knew that Nathan was right. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. They'd started as strangers thrown together by desperation and necessity. They'd become friends united by their love for 3 extraordinary children. They'd grown into partners who could weather any storm. And now, finally, they were exactly what they'd been meant to be all along, a family bound. Not by circumstance or convenience, but by choice. Every day they chose each other. Every day they chose love. And every day that choice created new magic, new joy, new reasons to believe that sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with the most desperate prayers. Candace had prayed for a job. Instead, she'd found a calling. She'd prayed for security. Instead, she'd found an adventure. She'd prayed for survival. Instead, she'd found a life so rich and full and beautiful that sometimes she had to pinch herself to believe it was real. As Nathan's arms tightened around her and she felt the steady rhythm of his breathing against her hair, Candace made a new prayer, not for rescue this time, but for gratitude. Gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, for the courage to take impossible chances, and for the kind of love that could transform even the most broken beginnings into the most perfect happily ever after. They were home. All of them. Finally and forever home. Dear amazing viewers, thank you so much for joining the Pierce family on their incredible journey. Your support means the world to me. I'd love to hear from you which moment in their story touched your heart the most. Did you see the romance building between Nathan and Candace from the beginning, or were you surprised by how their relationship developed? And what do you think the future holds for Tyler, Trevor, and Lily as they grow up in this loving family? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps me create even better stories for you.